It's been a while since I've actually gone through the executive orders that have been signed because it seems like any lawsuit that's going on right now has to do with an executive order. So I've been kind of doubling up. Let me just peruse a few of them that have kind of slipped through the cracks here for me in my closet docket that I'm working on. Here's one: preventing abuses of the legal system and the federal court, dated March 22nd of 2025. So, all right. This is a memorandum for the Attorney General. All right, sure. Attorney General, again, is part of the executive branch. The Secretary of Homeland Security. All right. Subject: preventing abuses of the legal system in federal court. That sounds good. All right, so that's sounding good, right? Let's take a look. Lawyers and law firms that engage in actions that violate the laws of the United States or rules governing attorney conduct must be efficiently and effectively held accountable. Oh, I agree completely with that. Accountability is especially important when the misconduct by lawyers and law firms threatens our national security, homeland security, public safety, or election integrity. I agree completely with that as well. Just remember, everybody, Marco Rubio and Mike Johnson are attorneys. Just friendly reminder there. Recent examples of grossly unethical misconduct are far too common. For instance, in 2016, so that was 10 years ago. So that's not a recent. So let's skip here. The immigration system. So that's, immigration. That's not the law. So that's not a law firm or an attorney. I think they're going to complain about it. So let's just fast forward. Again, this is a memo. Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 11, all right, prohibits attorneys from engaging in certain unethical conduct in federal courts. Absolutely true. Like, you cannot give false information to a court. You can't deny a court's order. You can't refuse to comply with that. That's all very true and could be violations here of Rule 11. Attorneys must not present legal filings for improper purposes, absolutely, including to harass, cause unnecessary delay, or needlessly increase the cost of litigation. Oh my gosh, that's so true. Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 11B1. Attorneys must ensure that the legal arguments are warranted by existing law, like the birthright citizenship situation, or by a non-frivolous argument for extending, modifying, or reversing existing law, or for establishing new law. Absolutely true here. And we're citing 11B2. And attorneys must ensure that their statements about facts are reasonably based on evidentiary support or a belief that such evidence actually exists. So this is great because what's going on in the JGG case with El Salvador and all of that, we're going to see violations like this. A lot of these are going to be raised. When these commands are violated, opposing parties are authorized to file a motion for sanctions. That's right. Sanctions can absolutely be filed in the JGG case, along with a few others, actually, but that's really the big one. The text of the rule specifically addresses and provides for sanctions for attorneys and their firms, as well as for recalcitrant parties, given the solemn obligation that attorneys have to respect the rule of law and uphold our nation's legal system with integrity. That's very important. Furthermore, Rule 3.1 of the Model Rules of Professional Conduct provides, quote, a lawyer shall not bring or defend a proceeding or assert or controvert an issue therein unless there's a basis in law and fact for doing so that's not frivolous, which includes a good faith argument for an extension, modification, or reversal of existing law. Yes, this is exactly what we're going to be talking about when it comes to those contempt issues in DC. So you're going to see this kind of language being used as they try to say they weren't violating the federal court judge's order. So this is great. But let me pause for a second. I know I said I'd go through it, but let me just see again. Who is getting this? It's a memorandum for the Attorney General. So I'm not really sure here. Let me pause for a second because they're copying and putting rules in Federal Rules of Civil Procedure to the Attorney General for the United States of America. Like I'm like, what? Does that the Attorney General already have this information? Like, all right. All right, so unfortunately, far too many attorneys and law firms have long ignored these requirements when litigating against the federal government, and that's an opinion, or in pursuing baseless partisan attacks. Again, an opinion, I've really only seen sanctions against Mr. Trump's attorneys, so I'm not really sure what he's talking about here. To address these concerns, I hereby direct the Attorney General to seek sanctions against the attorneys and law firms who engage in frivolous, unreasonable, and vexatious litigation against the United States or in matters before executive departments and agencies of the United States. I think that's great. I think that's absolutely great. But we have to be careful that filing these sanctions regarding frivolous, unreasonable, and vexatious litigation is not more frivolous, unreasonable, and vexatious litigation. So if the Attorney General comes in looking for these sanctions that aren't based with a good faith argument, and it's not reasonably based on evidentiary support or actual evidence that exists, then she could be falling into this category right here. So you got to be careful with those sanctions, ma'am. I further direct the Attorney General and the Secretary of Homeland Security to prioritize enforcement of their respective regulations governing attorney conduct and discipline. All right. I further direct the Attorney General to take all appropriate action to refer for disciplinary action any attorney whose conduct in federal court or before a component of the federal government appears to violate professional conduct rules, including rules governing meritorious claims and contentions, and particularly in cases that implicate national security and blah, 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 blah. I'm fast forwarding here because it's looking like, and this is really great actually, it's looking like he's setting up an outline to talk about the Department of Justice attorneys that are making the arguments that have no evidentiary basis or constitutional arguments. So I think this is great because this would be a great outline to use to support that a lot of the Department of Justice attorneys are like, it's questionable ethics. I further direct that when the Attorney General determines that conduct by an attorney or a law firm in litigation against the federal government warrants seeking sanctions or other disciplinary actions, the Attorney General shall, in consultation with any relevant senior executive official, recommend to the President, through the Assistant to the President for Domestic Policy, additional steps that may be taken, including reassessment of security clearances and so on. And I further direct the Attorney General in consultation, blah, 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 to review conduct by attorneys and their law firms in litigation against the federal government over the last 8 years. If the Attorney General identifies misconduct that warrant additional actions, such as filing frivolous litigation or engaging in fraudulent practices, the Attorney General is directed to recommend those to the President. Wow, he's really taken a hands-on approach, which is fascinating because the federal government is a net over the entire United States from coast to coast. So there's a lot of attorneys and a lot of law firms across the entire United States that work in the federal judicial system. So I think this is fascinating because is he saying then any attorney practicing in the federal court system, the whole system, the attorney generals to individually go through, take a look at those attorneys, and then single them out to talk to the President about? That's amazing to have every single attorney that practices in federal court, looked at by the AG and possibly the President. I mean, that's dedication because that's going to take a lot of time. Here we go. Law firms and individual attorneys have great power, and with great power, everybody comes great responsibility, an obligation to serve the rule of law, justice, and order, just like the President of the United States of America. The Attorney General, alongside the counsel to the President, shall report to the President periodically on improvements by firms to capture this hopeful vision. All right, so it's very interesting, all right? We've got this memo here to the Attorney General explaining what the law is, and then telling the Attorney General to look for any kind of ethical violations. And I would say he is mentioning the kinds of violations that the Department of Justice may be responsible for in a lot of these lawsuits against his administration, of which there are 137 cases. And there's some questionable activity going on. So this would be a great outline for anyone wanting to go forward to say, the Department of Justice attorneys, I'm going to need you to calm down for a minute because they could be looking at sanctions. And he wants the Attorney General to look at every single attorney, essentially, that works in the federal court system as having potential ethical violations, which I think is great. I think we're a self-regulating ethics community, our job. So I think it's fantastic. I mean, for you to go through every single state and go through all of the attorneys and all of the firms that practice in federal court and make sure that they're doing everything ethical, that's how it should be. That's how it should be. So thank you, Attorney General, for doing that, and make sure to sit down with the president and give him a big ol' update on every single attorney in the United States that practices in federal court. That is an incredible use of the President of the United States' time. All right, there you go. That's my thoughts here on this memo that was published on this website on March 22nd.